Hello everybody, in this video I wanted to talk about teams that can realistically win the World Cup. Now, heading into every World Cup, there's typically 3 or 4 teams that are considered the favorites. The World Cup is a tournament that only sees a new champion on average about every 10 to 12 years. In the 80-plus year history of the World Cup, we've only ever had 8 different countries win it, which really speaks to how hard it is, given how global soccer has become over the years. Only 8 different countries have actually won the World Cup. Now, heading into 2018, I wanted to just briefly go over the sides that I think have a realistic shot of winning it. Now, there's only a few favorites, but there are also a few teams outside that immediate group of favorites that can win the tournament. Teams that are sort of in between the second-tier favorites and the dark horses who can go on a deep run but not necessarily win. So, you think of favorites for 2018, a lot of the traditional names like Brazil, Germany, France, Spain, they who must not be named. And then you have others that are considered dark horses, maybe like a Serbia, not necessarily to win it, but to make a deep run, say, to the quarter or semifinals. Third place game, like Serbia, maybe like a Denmark, a Peru, one of the African teams, maybe an Asian team if they really hit their form. But then there's that middle ground where there's an outside shot of teams who can absolutely win the tournament, but they're better than being a dark horse. And those are the teams that would be typically ranked between, say, 5th and 9th in the world, somewhere between that little grove there, between 5th and 9th, of teams who can win the World Cup, but they need a few things to go in their favor in order to do so. And aside from the sides, the teams that I mentioned, I would say the other 3 or 4 teams are the likes of, say, a Portugal, a Belgium, Uruguay, England, and a Colombia. A lot of people will give a very conservative estimation of teams that can win the World Cup. They're saying 3 or 4. I think because of the fact of how football has become so expansive in recent decades, if any team really hits peak form entering a tournament, they can absolutely go on to win the whole thing. And I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that, say, a Belgium or a Portugal can do it. I don't rate Belgium very highly. I don't buy the hype around them, but they certainly have the talent to do it, and they do have a better manager in Martinez than they did last time around with Mark Wilmots. And as unconvincing as they were in the last 2 recent major international tournaments, Belgium did at least get to the quarterfinal stage. So that begs the question, if they were to max out their full potential, could they reach a semi or a final and go on to win it? I think absolutely. Uruguay finished 2nd in South America. Cavani, the best form of his life for PSG. They finally sorted out their midfield worries. A lot of the younger guys coming through from the under-23 levels. Look out for Georgian de Arrascaeta, who, in my opinion, is one of the potential breakout stars of this World Cup. Uruguay look really solid, just coming off their best-ever qualification phase. Suarez always shows up for his country as well. Heavy favorites in Group A, so their path to the knockout rounds is very, very fair. One can argue that they were the biggest winners from the entirety of the World Cup 2018 draw, Uruguay. Portugal, they've already broken down the barrier of winning a major international trophy. Euro 2016 and current champions. Nobody thought they could do it then. Why can't they do it now? I don't see any reason why they can't. Nowadays, when you have a decent enough defense and you have one superstar on your team that can just score goals out of nowhere, who might be the most prolific goal scorer we've seen ever, or at least in a generation. I think ever. I think he's the greatest goal scorer of all time, Cristiano Ronaldo. Nowadays, when you have a player like him, and you have a squad that plays at a level semi-world class, players like Adrian Silva, Neves, who's a goalkeeper? Patricio. You have a manager in Fernando Santos that the players have a lot of confidence in, that guided them to that Euro 2016 trophy. And then you move along and you have teams like Colombia and England. Yeah, I know England are always the butt of jokes when it comes to World Cups, but come on. England are still England. England can go the next 50, 60 years without winning a World Cup. Another 50, 60 years, and they're still in the conversation because England are England. They're always a team that will be associated with the sport, and they're always in the conversation as a side where if they click, they can go on a deep run. They did it in 2002 and 2006, getting to the quarterfinals. I know 2010 and 2014 were abysmal, but England right now look to be in the best shape they've been in a long time. Friendlies-wise, they're getting results against better opposition. Again, teams like Brazil, Germany, and Italy. You have other national team managers that have been complementing this current crop of English players. It's been a very good year for England at the club level in football, with 5 teams in the Champions League knockout phase. The under-17 and under-20 world champions just in 2017. Even the women's division is doing well in England. It's been a great year for English football, and it could translate into a deep run for them at the World Cup. And because England are England, I think they have to be considered among the second tier, the second group of favorites that can go on to win it. Now, them winning it is extraordinarily unlikely, but let's be honest, they're a top 10 team in this tournament. Or at the very least, a top 15 side. I think they're a top 10 team of the 32 for Russia in the World Cup. Even when it comes to friendlies, I want to see most teams get results against the likes of Brazil, Germany, and Italy. I want to see it. Because the truth is, most teams that qualified can't. They can't do that. But England can. So that puts them in the conversation, at least in my book. And then you have Colombia. I mean, they have world-class players like James Rodriguez, Radamel Falcao, who's now back. He missed the previous World Cup, and Colombia still got to the quarterfinals. Others like Carlos Baca, Cardona. I keep mixing the name up. Colombia finished 4th in South American qualifying. But I mean, they're still a South American team, man. They have a very lenient group, or at least a balanced group. They got Poland, Senegal, Japan. That's a group that I feel Colombia should finish top of. They can easily beat the second place team from Group G. That's a quarterfinal path. They can get back to the quarterfinals again. So Colombia, they're in that second group in the conversation as well. So how many teams can realistically win the World Cup? Well, we have, in no particular order, Brazil, France, Spain, they who must not be named, technically, Belgium, Colombia, Uruguay, Portugal. I think as many as 8 or 9 teams. I like to be liberal with my estimations, but that's what I'm going with, guys. People that are, very conservative will give you a list of 4 or 5, but I think we could see as many as 8 or 9 countries quite feasibly win this tournament, and that's excellent for football because that's 1/4 of all the participants of the 32 in the World Cup just right there. As many as 1/4, a quarter of them can go on to win it. And that's the beauty of this sport, how much it's grown. You compare that to World Cups in the past, arguably 2, 3, 4 favorites, teams that could have a prayer of actually going on to win the whole thing. Now, the teams that I mentioned in that latter category of the second tier group, they need other results to go their way for that to happen, but it's not so extreme to mull over, and that's quite exciting in my opinion. So that's how I feel. I feel we could see about 8 or 9 different countries win the World Cup this summer. Who do you think can realistically win it in Russia in 2018? I look forward to hearing what you have to say. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, God willing. Until then, have a good one. Much love, and peace out.